Hello YouTube. So I was on a train. I feel like every time I think about something, somebody else says it out loud. So I was thinking like we as a people should just randomly boycott just because we can. You know? Like the positive thing about the 60s is we were so unified as a people. Like you had more black businesses, you had more people who owned homes back then, and I believe that because especially like my mother's side of the family and my father's side of the family too. Like my father's grandmother, she owned a home in Crown Heights, and you had people who lived in apartments back then was by choice. So now some people might say, oh, it's not a racial issue, it's an economic issue. I don't know. And yes, some of our friends and family own homes now, but it was much easier to get it. Like you could have, and me and my uncle was talking about it, my grandmother and her sisters, they didn't have the fanciest, careers, but they owned a home, and everybody had a taste of the American dream. And you didn't have to be married with six figures to get a taste of that American dream. You got single women who own homes, but obviously, they're making six figures and better, or they, whatever, or they live in another state. A lot of people are, to experience home ownership, they're going to other states. But briefly, real quick, I actually forgot to mention this, and I wanted to talk about sundown states. Now, what is a sundown state? Sundown state is a state where African Americans at a certain time, they have to be in the house, otherwise arrested and or lynched. Also, FYI, Joe Biden just signed the law that lynching is against the law. Say what? Yes, in 2021, Joe Biden signed a law saying that lynching is illegal, which means before 2021, folks, lynching was very legal. That's why when somebody would be found on a tree and hung, nobody knows nothing. And there was no investigation because it was legal. As disturbing as that sounds, you could look it up, you could Google it. This is a real law, and there's a lot of laws that's in place that, our rights are, we don't have any rights. Like they got something in the textbook that I read when I was in college, something called probable cause, which in my opinion is harassment. So probable cause is if I'm an officer and I think that something's in your house, with probable cause, I have a right to come in your house and do a random warrant. Now, some people might say, oh, well, that's illegal. No, it's not illegal. It's called probable cause. Or you driving in your car with tinted windows, and most of my professors were retired police officers, so they knew what they was talking about. If you have a car with tinted windows, right, and it's nighttime especially, and I think you might have weed in the car, I don't have to have any knowledge of who you are or what you've done. If I think that there's weed in the car, probable cause, it gives the right for an officer to stop your car and search it, which to me is crazy. And so all these laws that they have, the problem is you have these laws to treat people like slaves all over again. And that's why it's so important to know your history, folks, because some people, they don't like history and it's boring and stuff, and I get it. It is. When it comes to, when you're talking about George Washington and stuff, very boring, extremely. But what you need to understand is we live in a country that's not free and never was. That's the reality. So I just wanted to spread that knowledge a little bit, that you have sundown states. What other states that are sundown states? They are Pennsylvania. I was shocked because I've been to PA. All of us been to PA plenty of times, and I ain't never knew that. That's scary because God forbid something can happen to you. You can go missing, and for Pennsylvania to be a sundown state, that is so like crazy to me. So hopefully when y'all go to PA with y'all boo thing and Poconos and stuff, make sure you in a hotel. And I'm serious, make sure you in a hotel. Make sure, and it's not even about being scary. You just don't want to be in a situation that you could avoid, you know. What else? They said Missouri, Indiana, Illinois. Those are all sundown states. Now, there was a young man by the name of Jelani, and that story really broke my heart. He was in medical school, y'all. I don't know if y'all remember. This was back in 2022, I believe. But it was about a medical student. He was very young. He was like 24 years old in medical school. And he was in a sundown state. And the mother couldn't wrap her head around the fact they found his body in a sundown state. And she was like, there's no way that my son would have went there by himself. He had friends of another race, and these people had to lure him there. There's no way he would have he wasn't one of those people that just go places for no reason. Like, no, somebody had to invite him, somebody had to guide him over there. So with that story, he had 2 white girls that came forward with his clothes. So obviously they know something, but you know what happened? They lawyered up, and they chose to not say anything because the questions did want to question them, but they lawyered up. So they told the cops that they didn't want to talk, they didn't want to speak, but they provided the police officers with his clothes. The way he died was very sad. First of all, they said he drowned in a lake, which doesn't make any sense because the water's not even that. Like, it wasn't even a lake, it was like a creek. I don't know if y'all have ever seen, like, when you in the woods and you have like a little creek. The water wasn't even that deep, y'all. The water was like 2 feet tall. So they know that that's a lie. Also, he was a swimmer, like the mother said. Another thing that was very peculiar is the day before he passed away. Or no, I should say the day of his disappearance, I should say. He was up, it was his first day of medical school. So you know the devil was after him. This would make the story so sad. Medical school student, that was his first day. He was supposed to meet with his guidance counselor before class, and the guidance counselor automatically knew something was wrong because Jelani would have never missed it. He would have never missed that meeting. The day of his disappearance, they found him on a camera going into the weed spot. But according to the mom and his folks and his siblings, he never smoked weed. So the question is, why was he in a weed spot? Who sent him there? He probably was going for a friend. It is possible that maybe he did smoke weed and just never told his family. I doubt that because that's kind of hard to like hide that from somebody. You know, that's your family. You could hide that from friends, you know, but it's kind of, and even if you're around your friends a lot, you could hide that from like a friend you don't see often. Like in my age group, I'm 35, so like with my friends, we don't see each other as often. We see, because you know, we got families, we tired. Number one, you 35, we tired, we got kids, some of us have grown kids, so it's easy to hide that from each other. But when you're a teenager in your early 20s, you with your friends all the time, so you're with your family all the time. He had a very close-knit family, so I don't know how he was able to hide the fact that he smoked weed. I don't know. But yeah, so that's an example of a sundown state incident. So just be careful, y'all, and just spreading the knowledge. And those are my thoughts.